Well, I think we should get started. We have a very interesting topic, and we've got a great panel, and I'm just delighted to be moderating this group. We're going to talk about a subject, and in fact, the reason that this came about was because I've been seeing, as in my role at HighWire Press, more and more emphasis on the manuscript submission process, and more involvement by publishers and even by end users in understanding the manuscript submission process. And I felt that since this was a subject I wanted to know more about, the best way to do it was to organize some people who know a lot more about it than I do and ask them to come and join me. So I hope that you'll find it as interesting and fascinating a subject as I do. Let me just very briefly introduce the other members of the panel. The way we're going to do this is each of us will do a brief talk about our own business, our own involvement with manuscript submission, peer review, that whole process. And you'll see that it comes from both the business side as well as from the technical side. And then we'll open it up to some questions. I have some questions, and I'm sure some of you do as well, for general discussion among the panel members and also among you in the audience. So I'm Bert Carelli. I'm with HighWire Press, Senior Publication Manager, and I have the honor to have on our panel Mr. John Inglis, Dr. John Inglis of Cold Spring Harbor Press, who you heard earlier today interviewing Ken Auletta, doing a wonderful job on that. We have Joel Plotkin of eJournal Press, President of eJournal Press. Mr. Peter Binfield from PeerJ, also formerly of PLOS and other places like Sage before that. And Mark Johnson, my former colleague from HighWire, now at PLOS here, as long as I don't spend too much time on this. So I'm with HighWire Press, and for those of you who may not be that familiar with HighWire, I will say a little bit about HighWire. I'm going to talk mostly, though, about HighWire's Bench Press, which is our solution for manuscript submission and peer review. And then talk about in particular, some of the newer pieces of innovation. And this platform serves many different audiences, particularly authors and researchers, but also for editors and publishers. So there are a number of different needs and use cases to explore. And there are new workflows, and the new workflows piece is directly following on John's talk. So HighWire Press has achieved 20 years in the business, which is something. And it has some impressive numbers, 130 publishers, publications online, over 3,500, lots of articles, some going back as early as 1665. Among the bench press users, so a manuscript submission system has not only users on the publisher side, but also users who are registered when they submit a paper. So that includes authors, so over 800,000, and receives over 97,000 submissions a year. And there are a number of publishers, we recognize many of those logos, who are on the HighWire platform in one form or another. Maybe some are just on the hosting platform, some are on bench press as well. What we've done in recent time, and those of you who know HighWire know that we've gone through a change. We are now independent of Stanford University. It's caused us to look a little bit more holistically at our business. So what we see is that HighWire is involved in all phases of the content life cycle. And that includes, starting up in the upper right corner, from the creation and submission of content for publication, the ingesting and publishing of the content, all of the work that it takes to go from a a print publication or print article all the way into an online article. And then what we call the HighWire Open Platform, which has a number of different forms and styles, which are the websites that you're probably most familiar with. And then the newest piece, Stackly, being our end user tool set for managing and collecting information as an individual. All of this adds up to a strategy which is based around, if you start from the bottom here, there are who are the people, who are the users, identity in general, the content itself, and then analytics. So these are all pieces that serve this market, and those products, BenchPress, HighWire Express, our content ingestion system, the open platform, then pushing content out through collections, through an end user tool, Stackly, onto the website. So to focus down on BenchPress a little bit more. So BenchPress is HighWire's end-to-end solution for scholarly manuscript submission. BenchPress has been around nearly as long as HighWire, and it was really grew out of the demand of publishers to have this functionality, and it was built just like the rest of HighWire from the ground up with our own technology. Just a quick overview: number of journals, over 68 users I mentioned earlier, submissions and views, and these are some of the logos of publishers who are on BenchPress. So I mentioned that they serve several different markets. So beginning with authors, authors can create an account, log into a journal site, and the journal automatically creates a PDF out of the materials that the author submits, the Word files, images, and adds metadata in the form of forms, and then does a lot of work using our back-end systems to pull structure out of that metadata and to enable authors to enter them in a structured way for reference extraction. We also are able to because we have the vast corpus of content on HighWire, we can do linking directly to references, check the references, and provide live links to them when the reviewers go in to look at those papers. We provide forms for authors to declare their conflicts of interest, checklists to make sure that both authors and editors have completed the process that's required, copyright, and also additional custom submission. But now we're moving on to other newer fields. A lot of the work we've done over the last couple of years has been around bringing in third-party integration to add value. One of these is FundRef, another is Dryad, Orchid, and Prescore. So I'll briefly just talk about those. FundRef, for those of you not familiar with FundRef, it's a controlled list of funders that is maintained by the folks at Crossref, and we provide functionality for an author to select from that list. So then there's a disambiguation of names. When you get down into the many different agencies within NIH, it's possible to describe them in many ways, but in order to get them into a database where you can actually search on them and use that information, there has to be a controlled list, and that's what has been developed. And so we've created this kind of functionality around that. And this moves through our production system and then on into, once that metadata is with the content, it stays in it for all the life cycle of that content. Dryad, those of you maybe not familiar with Dryad, if there's a few of you there, is a repository for supplemental data, and it's become a much more ubiquitous storage place for long-term access to content. Some of these things are not really unique to HighWire, but and I expect that Joel especially will be able to talk a little bit more about some of these things. So I'm going to go very quickly. But Dryad has has also been something that authors have been required to use for their supplemental data, so we provide a way for them to associate their supplements with the content, even though it's on an external platform. ORCID is we've integrated ORCID for some time now. It allows an author to identify their work with a unique profile that they have filed as part of ORCID. And our latest addition to that is to allow the author to maintain their ORCID ID within the bench-press system and then use it again. Prescore, these folks have a booth here, and it's a very interesting innovation in this area as well. Prescore is a way of taking the information as it is created in the bench press system and other systems, obviously, but to then use that as then metadata, which can be displayed and used for analysis when you read an article eventually online. So this is another integration. Just an example, here it is on the JBJS site. You can see the little icon up there, and that allows you to have a place where you can go and click and see what is the information that is in the database at Prescore about this article. So that it includes things like, how was it reviewed? How many rounds of review? This type of thing, all in the purpose of giving more transparency to the review process. I mean, one of the things I hope that we'll have a chance to talk about a little bit is why this is necessary. And I know John touched on some of those issues as the review process needs some transparency to it. Tools for editors and publishers. This is the standard interface where our editors and publishers log into the site. They can go in and they can manage their lists of reviewers. And some journals, like the JCO, have literally hundreds and hundreds of reviewers. And to be able to know who to send a paper to by virtue of their expertise, by virtue of what other types of works they've reviewed in the past. And the newer innovation around this are additional analytics. So we're doing some very new things. This is very new. We call it impact visors. And new monetization opportunities for publishers, especially in the open access area where you have the author paying the fees up front to have their paper published. We've also created a forum around bench press. So Impact Visor is the first of a suite of analytic tools that look at this whole concept of impact. I mean, we've had impact factor around for many years, but in some ways it's kind of a black box as to what is represented there. And there's a long time lag to know whether a journal has a high citation, high number of citations for its articles, but all of that's at the journal level. So what we've identified, and this is under the leadership of John Sack, is a way of looking at impact at the article level, and it has some really interesting implications for the future. The first of these tools is something that we call the Rejected Article Tracker, the RAT, the favorite RAT report. So this came out of talking with some of our publisher clients and finding out that one of the big tasks that they have to do every year is looking at the papers that were rejected, and many of our journals, because they're such prestigious journals, have very, very high into the 90% range rejection rate, and see, have we missed something? Is there a commercial opportunity there? So where an article that has been rejected shows up then subsequently in a journal, that's interesting information to an editor. It helps you answer questions like, okay, who are the journals? In other words, where are authors turning to if their paper is rejected here? Is there a commercial opportunity that we might be able to exploit by maybe launching a journal that will take some of these rejected papers, which is something that the folks from the American Academy of Neurology have done successfully in the last year by launching 2 what they call spoke journals that take some of the papers, so the cascading acceptance within the publishing house itself. Also, looking for feedback about who your editors are. You know, if it turns out an editor is rejecting papers that later turn up in very highly prestigious journals, are we being too restrictive in our criteria for selecting papers? You know, then being able to analyze what the reasons were. So it's really a chance to do a deep dive into what was going on, you know, over the last year or the last few months or the last few years with my journal. The e-commerce options, we've been able to integrate with some technology provided by the folks at Copyright Clearance House to enable an automated way for authors to submit their fees. And the Bench Press Community Forum, a way for our publishers to share their best practices. And this is something that's fairly new among our publishers at this point. Workflow efficiencies. We've had a way for a long time in BenchPress of customizing our sites. And it really is one of the benchmarks of why BenchPress is popular. It's highly customizable, and for many different reasons. But on the new side, we've developed new workflows for rapid publication, and this is what John was referring to around bioRxiv and the portals. And also we have some new innovations on our roadmap that I'll just mention briefly. So the rapid publishing workflow, and again, this was really came out of the vision that Cold Spring Harbor brought to us and said, make this work. So what we've created is a submission site for bioRxiv that allows a very light level of review of the article. It's looking at it for, is there inappropriate content there that shouldn't be online at all? Is it creationism or something? I don't know. You have your criteria, there's a confirmation of what the subject category is, and they just hit a button that says, "Okay, publish this," or send it to into the publishing workflow. It goes directly into HighWire Express, where there's some automations that add it to our database, add the metadata of dates and some of the other pieces that John described earlier. Of metadata that can be added at a site level, and then publishing it to the site with features that are very close to what you see in a journal, but it's not a journal, it's a preprint server. So that's just a couple of screenshots there of the submission, very, very easy and lightweight. And then John mentioned also the portals. So we've done this for a while for publishers who have cascading acceptance journals, and you're able to move from one review or editorial queue to another when a paper gets rejected, to find a more appropriate home for that paper within a publisher's suite of journals. The newer piece of this was doing a simultaneous choice or option for an author to submit their paper to bioRxiv for immediate posting while it's still in the review process. So they're submitting to Genome Research, but now they have the option also of going directly to bioRxiv. And then the logical extension of that is being able to go ahead and publish from bioRxiv and then choose other publications to go to or from. And that's some of the stuff that was mentioned earlier. And finally, you've heard us mention Stackly, our end user tool. Stackly has some pretty nifty tools for PDF annotation. Our goal is to start to integrate some of those into BenchPress as well. So that's it for me, and I'd like to invite